everyone, it's Jo here from Time for Tea Designs with another video tutorial. So today's video is going to be made using some of the items in our Black Friday sale. So you can see here that I'm just gathering some of these items together. I've got the quilted square nesting dies, our Hugs and Kisses stamp set. I've got this sparkle cover plate die, and I'm also going to be using our landscape edges dies. So these all form part of different collections within our Black Friday sale, which you will be able to find on the website through the 27th of November until the 30th of November. So I had an idea to cut out the sparkle cardstock from my cover plate die, which looks absolutely amazing against the white background. But I also wanted to give it a bit of extra sparkle, so I'm cutting the same square shape from this gorgeous glittery silver cardstock. And I'm going to cut that using that same square shape so that it's exactly the same shape to fit behind the piece that we've already cut. So that's going to fit onto our white A2 size card base. I've cut another piece using that same square from some white cardstock, and now I'm using one of the sloped dies from that landscape edge die set to create some snowy hills. So I was only intending on using one of the hills at this point because I wanted there to be enough room for my little pig image to sit. And I'd got a vision in my head of our little pig on the scooter. So this is one I'd previously coloured, but I will be doing a new one for the card today. I'm also going to cut some of these little trees that are from the recently released Winter Wonderland background set. So it does come with a stamp set, but I'm just using the dies to cut from some white cardstock. I've selected my images, and we have our cute little pig on his scooter. I've also stamped out the Santa's hat and the present, the robin, and our little mouse from other sets within our collections. And I'm also just stamping here the little cake stand that's within the Baked with Love stamp set, but I'm only going to stamp the top part of that. This is because I want him, our little pig, to be pulling a little sled, and this was the only image that we could find that would be suitable for a little sled that our little pig can pull behind him that will carry all of the presents. I'm now going to colour in our little pig here using a number of Copic markers. I'm using some salmony pink colours for his body, and I'm using the previously coloured image there just as a guide for my colour scheme. So I've started with my lightest shade, as I always do, and then I'm just adding some more colour and darker shades to add some depth and dimension. The scooter I'm going to colour in red, and afterwards I did wonder whether maybe I should have coloured that in a different colour, because he's also going to be wearing this little Santa's hat, which will also be in red. But in the end, it all looks really, really festive. So, and I do think a red scooter just seems right, especially for a winter theme. So although our pig image here is part of the Hugs and Kisses stamp set, which is not a winter related or a Christmas related stamp set, I just thought it'd be a really nice idea to mix him with the other stamps here that we've got that are from different collections, and make this a winter themed card. So it just shows how you can mix and match your different stamp sets within the Time for Tea collections to really make something completely different to how it was originally intended, and makes them useful for all different seasons. So the little mouse here, he's from the You Are the Best gift stamp set that was released in July, and he's hanging on to his little present there, which is so cute. The little robin is from the recently released Skating by Penguins stamp and die set. The little Santa's hat is from the Catmas Crackers stamp set, and the little present, I think, is teamed with the little mouse, is from the You Are the Best gift. So the colour scheme that I'm using today is quite traditionally Christmas. So I'm using reds and blues in a nice royal blue and some really vivid greens to colour in the accessories. So I'm using the blue to colour in what will be our sled or imaginary sled. And that's what we're going to use to carry our little presents on. So, and then I've used the darker green to colour the scarf of the robin and the other present that the little mouse is holding. And just to complete that line at the bottom of our sled, I just used a Copic multi-liner there just to finish that off. So it looks like it was meant to be stamped that way, which I think worked really, really well. I felt that because we were going to have this little sled of presents, I needed a few more of those presents to stack up. So I've just stamped those out individually, and I'm going to colour those in, like I say, in that same traditional Christmassy colour scheme. So red and green. And then for each of the little bows on top, I've used a contrasting colour. So for the red present, I think I've gone with the blue and red for the green. So that's the presents and all the images coloured. So I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut all of those out, including the coordinating die for the cake stand. Now that will cut out the cake stand shape, but you will see when we come to look at that will still work really nicely. So I've also die cut all of those little trees, and I've got all of my pieces together ready to assemble. So back to our background now, and I wanted to add some snowy splatters to that background. So I've mixed up some white acrylic paint with some water and a large paintbrush, and I am just splashing that all across the surface. I've then gone to some metallic white paint, and I'm doing the same, mix that up with some water and then splattering that all over the surface. And just some flicks off the side of my palette there will create a finer spray. And that just looks really, really pretty on the background and looks like snow. So you can see here that I'm just trimming off the bottom of that cake stand. So again, it's much easier to do that than try and fussy cut the whole thing. I've just had to snip off a little bit, and that's made it look like, again, it was meant to be. I'm adding some extra little embellishments or highlights, if you like, to each of my images using my white Jelly Roll pen. So I'm adding some spots to the present that's in the hands of our little mouse, some highlights to the hat, and then some spots on this red present. I'll add some stripes to one of the other presents, just so that it just makes them look a little bit more interesting. So it gives us a little bit of something different. Once they're all stacked together, they look a little bit different from each other. And I do think that the odd little highlight with the white Jelly Roll pen just really finishes off an image. So it just brings everything together, and I do like the effect that gives. So we can start assembling some of our bits here. So I've got all of my die cuts there, and I'm just checking where everything is going to fit onto our card front. I'm going to add the little Santa's hat to what we christened our Santa Pig. So this is now Santa Pig, isn't he so cute? And that's where his little sled will be. And our little mouse will sit atop there, and then we'll add some of the trees in the background. Now, when I did the layout in this way, I felt that all of those trees were going to be hidden by our other elements because they were a little bit low down in the scene. So when I added my little Santa Pig back in front of them, you can see here that it covers them up, and it makes them a little bit pointless. So in the end, I decided that this wasn't how I wanted it to look. I wanted those trees to be a bit more visible. So while I liked the arrangement here with the pig and the mouse, and it looks so cute with them with their little sled carrying those presents, I did want those trees to be a little bit more visible. So in order to solve that, I decided that I would cut another piece of our background with those landscape dies. I'm using some of my liquid glue here just to attach my my sparkle panel to that glittery cardstock. So, and the fine tip nozzle of that bottle there is really perfect for getting in between all of those little die cuts. And I'm going to add this flat to my card base again with some liquid glue, and I'm just checking where my my sentiment might be. So we decided that the sentiment that we'd use would be one from the original stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it onto this lovely navy blue cardstock that matches the panel that we've already used. And I'm going to stamp that with some embossing ink and use white embossing powder to create our sentiment. So I'm using the sentiment sending hugs and kisses. Now we did, obviously this isn't a Christmassy sentiment, however, we felt that because of the winter theme, it's a great card to send at this time of year. It doesn't have to be about Christmas, but obviously it's a really nice wintry themed card to send to a friend at this time of year. We also decided that we would add a Christmassy sentiment to the inside of the card, and you'll see that later on. So I've added my heat embossing powder there, and now we're just heat setting that in place, and that's going to form our sentiment. I'm just going to cut that out now, and part of my head popping into view as I just try and line up as best I can. Using the trimmer is not my favourite way of cutting my sentiments. I would much rather use a die to cut my sentiments, but sometimes you may not have the right shaped die to cut those out, so you do have to use your trimmer, and this is a handy little trimmer to have. So I think I did quite well there, considering it's probably not my strong point. I decided that it might need a little bit of a sparkly border to coordinate with our background panel or our focal panel. So I've just layered my sentiment over some of this glitter cardstock, just so that I can see just how much of a border I want around it and make sure that's the same all the way around. And then I can adhere that focal panel to the top portion of our A2 size card base. So just centering that there and popping that down, making sure that's adhered, and then lining up where I'd like our sentiment to sit, making sure there's enough room for that at the bottom of our card. Next is to start assembling our scene, and this was so much fun to do, and I really do recommend trying to change your stamp sets for a different season. So using different accessories from different sets to really you know, change them up a little bit and get more use out of them, because it really did make me chuckle making this little pig into our Santa pig. You can see here that I'm just adding those lovely trees, and I love this effect of those trees cut out of just plain white cardstock, no stamping required, and they look really effective with our dark sky background. I started with my middle tree first so that I could make sure I got enough room for all of my other trees and I wasn't going to have them a little bit off center, and then just popped those a little bit behind that taller hill that we've got in the background there. I'll add the second hill that will give us a little bit of dimension underneath, and again using my liquid glue. So there's going to be plenty of dimension here once we start adding our characters. So everything else has just gone straight on with liquid glue. And now we can add our Santa pig, and he's going to be raised up on a foam pad. I'm just going to pop him to the left hand side, so there's enough room for him to pull his sled behind him. The little fake sled is going to need a tiny piece of our foam on the back of there as well, and just pop that a little bit behind him. And I wanted to attach the sled to the scooter using a little bit of twine. So here I've used a bit of multimedia mat on my finger and added a small piece of twine and run that through that adhesive. And what this does, it really does straighten it out and make it that little bit stiffer. I've put that to one side to dry, and we'll come back to that shortly. but that just makes it that little bit easier to attach and keep it in a nice straight line. I'm positioning all of my extra little additions to the scene. So some small foam pads will be added to the back of our presents, and I'm just checking where I want them all arranged, making sure that I've got the colours where I want them, and adding a little bit of foam to the top, and then the bottom a little bit of my liquid glue, because that will sit on top of the little sled. I use the same technique with the other present, and then some foam pads on our little mouse, and I've made sure not to go right to the bottom of our mouse, because I want again him to sit on top of those presents, so he will overlap ever so slightly. So again, I've just used a little bit of liquid glue to make sure he's attached to those. Some liquid glue for the final present next to our little pig, and I did have the little robin still, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with him, and he didn't seem to fit on the scene, so he just popped into one side for the time being, but he will reappear. So I'm adding my sentiment now onto the glitter layer, and then I will use some foam pads to attach that underneath our focal panel. As I didn't trust myself to line up my sentiment accurately, I did get out the T-square ruler just to make sure that I was attaching this in a straight line. Straight lines are not my strong point, so this T-square ruler is a real handy addition to my craft room. So now that my little piece of twine has dried, I can add one end of it underneath the sled using a bit of liquid glue. And I'm just using my pokey tool just to make sure that it fits under there, and then try and get that to adhere in place before I snip off the other end, and again add some more glue and pop that underneath the scooter. So just pressing that down and making sure that each end has gripped onto that bit of cardstock so that it dries in place. And now we found a home for our little robin. So I've popped some liquid glue onto the back of him there, and then I'm just going to pop him onto our sentiment panel on the right hand side, because I think he looks really cute on there. For the inside of our card, we did say that we would add a more wintry sentiment. So I'm using one of the new sentiment cards. These are really handy cards full of Christmassy and wintry sentiments. They're all lined up so that you can just snip them down using your trimmer. And then I'm going to use the Warm Winter Wishes sentiment from one of the, this is the black printed onto white sentiment card. And I'm just using the liquid glue to attach that to the center of my insert. The last finishing touches are to add some Stardust stickles to the top of our hills, and then my black glaze pen will add a little bit of shine to the noses of our little critters. And here is our finished card with our adorable Santa Pig pulling along his sled of presents. I really hope that you enjoyed the video today. If you like the products that we've used, then please do check out the website. Many of them are in our Black Friday sale, which runs until midnight on the 30th of November. So please do check that out. There's some great deals there to be had. And in the meantime, please do like and subscribe to our channel. We'll be coming back to you with some more videos really soon. And as always, I will be around on Facebook doing our crafting lives at 8 o'clock, and that's British summertime. I hope you can join me there. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you all again real soon. Bye bye now.